The Supreme Court is a death panel. Is that your opinion?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of you for taking your time to be here today. Dr. Franks, we're here to talk about free speech, correct?
Yes.
And we're here to talk about that being a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the Supreme Court plays an essential role in guaranteeing those constitutional rights, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about a tweet that you had in January 2024. The Supreme Court is a death panel. Is that your opinion?
In the context of this hearing, I think it is important to emphasize why I am here, which is to talk about my views on the First Amendment.
No. That's not what I ask you. Do you think the Supreme Court is a death panel?
In the context of the cases that, not for free speech, no, that was not the context of that particular
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, it appears that you see the Supreme Court as a death panel, and that is some of the same rhetoric that, unfortunately, we continue to hear from some on the left who are trying to villainize justices who are doing their job. And I would like to just ask you, knowing that you have put this out, that the Supreme Court is a death panel, then let me ask you this. Do you look at Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson as members of the death panel, or is this just the justices that you disagree with?
I do not believe that the comments that you are referring to have relevance for this particular hearing, but here's what I will say. This is an administration that is threatening judges in addition to other people that he disagrees with. So, okay, yes, if your question is, do I defend judges? Am I worried about judges' security? I am. I am worried about this administration essentially threatening those judges.
I want to talk with you, Ms. Hemingway, about the State Department's use of the Global Engagement Center to censor news outlets like the Daily Wire and the Federalist. I know that this is something that you have had to deal with. And Daily Wire is located in Tennessee. We're proud of them. We are delighted that they chose to move from California over to Tennessee. And it is my understanding that the Global Engagement Center was created to counter messaging from bad actors, including terrorist groups, but the Biden administration weaponized it to silence conservative groups. And what has the censorship, I call it the censorship industrial complex, what do you think they're trying to hide when it targets outlets like the Federalist and the Daily Wire?
What started as a Senate hearing on protecting free speech quickly turned into one of the day's most intense confrontations. Senator Marsha Blackburn challenged a witness over a controversial social media post describing the U.S. Supreme Court as a death panel. As the witness struggled to explain the comment, Blackburn shifted the hearing into a broader debate over attacks on the judiciary, government censorship, and the future of the First Amendment. Blackburn began by establishing common ground, confirming that everyone in the hearing agreed free speech is a fundamental constitutional right and that the Supreme Court plays a vital role in protecting those freedoms. Then she produced a tweet from January 2024. Reading it aloud, Blackburn pointed to the phrase describing the Supreme Court as a death panel, and asked the witness a direct question. Did he still stand by those words? Rather than answering yes or no, the witness attempted to steer the conversation back toward his testimony about the First Amendment. Blackburn refused to let the issue go. She argued that language attacking the nation's highest court contributes to growing hostility toward justices who are carrying out their constitutional responsibilities. The questioning became even more pointed. Blackburn asked whether the witness believed every justice, including Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson, was part of this so-called death panel, or whether the criticism was directed only at the justices whose decisions he opposed. Again, the witness declined to answer directly. Instead, he shifted the discussion to concerns about threats against judges and the importance of protecting judicial independence. Blackburn responded by emphasizing that elected officials and public figures should be careful with rhetoric that could further undermine public confidence in the Supreme Court. If you're enjoying this breakdown of today's hearing, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your opinion in the comments below.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. Yes, our reporter, Margot Cleveland, who's our senior legal writer, uncovered through her reporting facets of the censorship industrial complex and learned that the State Department was one of the federal entities that was engaging with non-governmental organizations and other entities in big tech to market, promote, censorship tools and blacklists, which were then used against my publication, The Federalist, and also The Daily Wire. Publications that are a threat to the reigning orthodoxies are targeted by the censorship industrial complex. They want to exist without people pointing out their lies or the fact that there are really important debates. And so we are suing the State Department for that, and it is ongoing, this support of the censorship industrial complex. It is the bureaucracy, really, which perpetuates this even more than a particular administration.
Yes, and I think it's so important to note that robust, respectful, bipartisan debate adds to our freedom, helps to keep us free, and allows that debate in the public square. And when you have an entity that becomes weaponized and shuts down one side of that speech and only allows speech with which it completely agrees, that is when you have that censorship writ large. My time expires. Professor Turley, I have a question I will submit to you for the record. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for being with us today. I'd like to start with you, Ms. Hemingway.
240. The debate turns to government censorship. Blackburn then changed focus, turning her attention to journalist Molly Hemingway. She asked about allegations that the State Department's Global Engagement Center had worked alongside nonprofit organizations and major technology companies to combat online content. Hemingway testified that investigative reporting by The Federalist uncovered what she described as a coordinated effort involving federal agencies, outside organizations, and big tech companies that promoted censorship tools and content blacklists. According to Hemingway, those efforts affected publications such as The Federalist and The Daily Wire, which she argued often challenged prevailing political narratives. She added that litigation related to those allegations remains ongoing. 416. Why Blackburn says the First Amendment matters. As the hearing drew to a close, Blackburn stressed that democracy depends on open debate. She argued that Americans should be free to express opposing viewpoints without fear that government agencies or powerful institutions will suppress one side of the conversation. For Blackburn, the First Amendment isn't designed to protect only popular opinions. It exists to safeguard speech that others may disagree with. She warned that once government begins deciding which viewpoints deserve to be heard, the foundation of free expression is weakened. By the end of the hearing, two issues had taken center stage. First, Blackburn challenged what she viewed as inflammatory rhetoric aimed at the Supreme Court. Second, she raised concerns about whether government agencies crossed the line by influencing online speech through partnerships with outside organizations. Supporters argue those efforts were necessary to address misinformation, while critics contend they risk limiting protected speech and undermining the open exchange of ideas. What do you think? Should government agencies have any role in combating online misinformation, or should the public square remain entirely free from government involvement? Share your thoughts in the comments below.